Good morning to Asia, and good afternoon to those all across the fruited plains. You are tuned in to the global leader in knowledge, education, and patriotism, otherwise known as Republic Broadcasting Network, and you are now locked in to the worldwide 20-megabit beacon of truth, hope, and justice, otherwise known as your weekly dose of the Crimson Pill. I, your host, the great and all-powerful Antonin Feori. Hey, just make sure you don't peek behind the curtain, folks. Encourage you to unfasten your seatbelts and turn on all portable electronic devices as we embark on this week's voyage of the USS Crimson Pill. Our course has been charted for the Isle of Light by way of the Straits of Knowledge and the Sea of Tranquility. In the event of turbulence, the captain reminds you that your biological seat cushion is no substitute for an open mind. If you are seated in an exit row, you are now invited to move forward to our first-class cabin of truth at any time. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Saturday, July 16th, 2011 edition and dose of the Crimson Pill. I am your host, Antonin Feori, warmly welcoming you to the Republic Broadcasting Network, the global leader in truth, in true knowledge about what is happening in our United States and across the world. Folks, in the last couple of episodes of the Crimson Pill, you've heard me unveiling a number of the cover-ups, a number of the classified and compartmentalized secrets and lies that your government foists upon you. After all you do is pay the bills. You pay their salaries. You pay for the toys that they use to conduct these research programs, these operations around the world that are done in your name quite unjustly. Today's show, folks, I am referring to Barack Obama and the Deathly Hallows. My subtitle for the show is Social Security and Other Urban Legends. The reason I've chosen this topic, so many of us are quite tuned in to the recent headlines, the recent conversation by our interim president describing that we may not be able to fund Social Security checks, along with some other payments, including veterans benefits for the disabled veterans. We might not be able to send those checks out. He's playing football, political football, and it's disgusting. For him to enter into this debate with that commentary not only is demonstrated to be false, but unfortunately it shows the low extremes that our politicians and in particular our president are willing to go to in the course of playing political football. But having said all of that, your humble host is actually rather and quite glad that our president has made these comments, and the reason is because it shines light on an issue that affects each and every one of us American citizens, an issue which has been concealed and covered up and minimized for decades now. And yet, by way of his comments, however short-sighted and ill-considered they were to be made, by way of that, it provides the light to shine on this subject that is so desperately needed. You see, I'll make this point very clear. There is no Social Security trust fund. There is no big piggy bank with all of the dollars that we have contributed through our earnings, our withholdings from our career earnings. There is no safe, there is no vault, there is no pile of cash that contains all of our contributions. All of it has been raided. All of it has been spent by your government over the course of these last decades, in particular the last 2.5 decades. Folks, we're going to take a commercial break. I'd like you to tune in to the information you're about to hear. Support our Republic Broadcasting Network sponsors. Ladies and gentlemen, they are what helps allow us, all of the hosts from RBN, to continue to bring you the truth, some of these hidden and veiled facts. Folks, please support our sponsors, support the network. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
He is the creator and sustainer of all the worlds, whether those worlds are known or unknown to mankind.
And ladies and gentlemen, at 8 minutes after the hour, you are back with Antonin Feori and the Crimson Pill here on Republic Broadcasting Network. We have begun today's show with our discussion of the illusion of Social Security. And I have a stack of papers about 4 inches thick, articles, publications from some of the mainstream media, as well as getting out there a little farther on the edge of the limb. But I'd like to begin this exposition by talking from an article posted in Forbes magazine. The author Merrill Matthews, dated July 13, 2011, just 3 days ago. Title of the article is "What Happened to the $2.6 Trillion Social Security Trust Fund?" Here's how President Barack Obama answered CBS's Scott Pelley's question about whether he could guarantee that Social Security checks would go out on the day of August the 3rd, the day after the government is supposed to reach its debt limit. The quote from our interim president: "I cannot guarantee that those checks," and he included veterans and the disabled in addition to the Social Security, "I cannot guarantee that those checks go out on August 3rd if we haven't resolved this issue, because there may simply not be the money in the coffers to do it." Now, ladies and gentlemen, particularly those who are currently drawing Social Security, please understand that your president is very blindly, very misguidedly playing political football in making this statement. I think that you have no concern, no worry. It is disgusting to me to think that our elected leader of this country is so willing to jump to this measure of politicism that he is willing to threaten what is the lifeline for so very many retired Americans now, what they absolutely rely upon to meet their rent or living obligations, to buy their food, to pay for their medicines, that he's so willing to play this type of political football. And it's not just him alone. Here's Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner echoing the president's remarks on CBS's Face the Nation on Sunday, implying that if a budget deal isn't reached by August 2nd, seniors might not get their Social Security checks. Now, folks, once again, at the same moment that this sickens me to think that our quote-unquote leadership is willing to play these kinds of mind games with such a significant chunk of the American population only as political stratagems, as much as that sickens me, I am so very thankful that he made this misstep in speaking in these terms, because it finally has the attention of America's population. And once again, the ultimate point here, there is no trust fund, there is no piggy bank, there is no vault. It is entirely IOUs. I'm going to return to this Forbes article in just a bit, but now I'm going to turn to an article that I've had printed and in my archives since April of 2005. In this article, there's a photo op here with former President George W. Bush standing next to the filing cabinet located in Parkersburg, West Virginia, the filing cabinet that represents the quote-unquote trust fund. That's right. It's not a trust fund. There is no vault. There is no pile of cash. Instead, this filing cabinet contains all of the IOUs. The IOUs that have been inserted there after our government, as part of making its operational expenditures, has filled that filing cabinet with nothing but IOUs, promises of repayment. Now, I want to turn, I have so many of these articles to point to and work from. I think it's also worth mentioning the fact that I found it interesting this week, tuning through the radio dial in the afternoon, I came across the person that some of you might know as who I call Thrush Limbo, who has a rather large show. I call him Thrush because that's exactly what he is. He's a songbird, an extremely, enormously well-paid songbird who's paid to sing the songs and represent one side of this system of duality that is designed to entrap and enslave and continue to enchant the American public. On that particular day, Thrush was visiting with Senator Mike Lee from Utah. And Mike Lee from Utah, this was quite surprising to me because based on our interim president's remarks about the potential failure or inability to send out Social Security checks in August, Senator Mike Lee seemed to be quite surprised. It seemed that this was the first moment in time that this gentleman, the distinguished senator from Utah, realized the fact that there is no trust fund. In fact, for the next 5 minutes, I listened to Thrush and Senator Mike Lee engage in a conversation, half tongue-in-cheek, talking about, well, I thought there was supposed to be a lockbox. Well, Thrush, don't you recollect back in the 2000 election when that concept of a Social Security lockbox was being represented by one of the two candidates? Don't you recollect that you yourself were continually attacking that individual? Don't you recollect that at that time, because that candidate did not win the election, there was no lockbox established. There never has been. Does your memory only go back through the past few weeks, Mr. Thrush? And Senator Mike Lee, my goodness, a senator, one of only 100 in our country. And you now, only as a result of the president's remarks, have become aware of the fact that there is no trust fund? Folks, it is a filing cabinet filled with IOUs, and they will attempt to mislead you. I will take you through a few of their quotes and their comments. They will attempt to mislead you to cause you to think that that is, in fact, a trust fund, that it is funded, that those are assets. But no, those are all treasury instruments, debt instruments. Our government has used every penny of what you have contributed thus far, and these are nothing but debt instruments from the Treasury. They're special ones. They pay a higher interest rate. But, folks, we have to keep this in context. This is not like a certificate of deposit that has been made, and thus we're receiving interest from that investment. No. This is more akin to a credit account, and that interest is like the interest paid on a credit account.